Hello, and welcome to the Afterspark podcast, an episode-by-episode recap of the Generation 1 Transformers cartoon. I'm Els.
And I'm Specs.
And today we will be talking about episode number 82, Ghost in the Machine. Let's talk about giant robots today, shall we?
Yep. We open with Scourge getting possessed, again, by the world's glammest ghost.
Which can only mean one thing, really. It's the return of Starscream.
Scourge attempts to fight Starscream's ghost, but fails, forcing Scourge to fire on his allies.
Including Galvatron, who takes this personally, saying he's lost his mind.
Oh, that is rich coming from you, Galvatron.
Scourge is injured when his Sweeps, Cyclonus, and Headstrong all fire on him after he hit Galvatron.
He screams for a really long time and then transforms and flies off.
Galvatron wants Scourge to be brought before him, and he wants it now.
Cyclonus reaches the conclusion that Scourge has defected to the Autobots because he enters Cybertronian airspace.
Scourge and/or Starscream don't arrive on Cybertron proper. They actually arrive to a Unicron's disembodied head.
Unicron could have apparently been reactivated this entire time by touching two single wires together. Starscream, we're gonna tell Rodimus that you're hot wiring the Unicron.
Now, you may be wondering why Starscream is even doing this.
His grand plan is to reactivate Unicron so Unicron can give him a new body, presumably based on the fact that Megatron got a makeover.
Yeah, I question exactly how any of this is even possible, considering in the movie Unicron seemed to only change existing things, or it was heavily implied to come from all the material he was pulling in, and right now he is just a floating head.
Yeah, the whole he gave him a makeover is a pretty bad basis for this decision.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide jump between, look, Galvatron looks slightly, Megatron got a makeover to he can whole-ass make a body from nothing, you know?
Uh-huh.
Again, without any material source or anything that he had in the movie.
Unless he's anticipating him using, like, bits and pieces of his own body to make it, which seems weird.
Yeah, I have no freaking idea. It's definitely it sure is the conclusion Starscream's reached here.
Yeah. Unicron asks who fucking woke him up, so Starscream introduces himself.
The Big Bot is evidently willing to grant Starscream's request if Starscream performs 3 labors for him.
Or at least he's willing to pretend it, and also, we don't have time for a whole ass 12 in this 20-minute episode.
Scourge goes to leave, but realizes that Starscream has blackened his good name, and going back may in fact be bad for his health, as a cannon blast to the head generally is.
As Starscream learned to his detriment.
True. The first labor dictated by Unicron is for them to retrieve Metroplex's eyes so that he may see.
Often do people steal body parts in this show?
It will pop up in a couple episodes from now as well.
I mean,
yes.
they stole Optimus's entire body basically got stolen and taken apart that time. Part of Gears' personality component. This is really, we should have put together like a tally system for this.
If we had thought about that beforehand, we probably would have, but it does happen with a surprising amount of frequency.
Yeah. On Earth, Cup and Spike are inspecting Metroplex and compliment Blaster on keeping everything shipshape.
Blaster does manage to turn on the radio with his butt shirt though. Why is that of note? Because it was silly.
He's managing to butt dial people all throughout the universe, I guess, okay? Alright, so Starscream sneaks in behind Cup and Spike.
Yes, he's a ghost. Don't ask why he needed to wait for them to enter first. We don't fucking know.
But wait for them, he did!
He attempts to possess Cup, but Cup explodes. And then you exploded again. You've got to stop doing that.
Unfortunately, Starscream's software is not compatible with Autobot hardware, or possibly just Cup's hardware, because presumably he's old.
In all seriousness, this seems to have been intentional on Starscream's part to destroy the panel controlling Metroplex's security system, but we have no idea how he actually caused an explosion.
Yeah, and honestly, this probably would have been a good part for Metroplex's little guys to show up.
You would freaking think, wouldn't you? They do not use them enough. Like, considering all this stuff that, like, ends up happening to Metroplex in this season, it's like, his little guys do not show up frequently enough.
I mean, are they just off having the robot equivalent of pina colada somewhere? Further confusing things, Blaster could actually see Starscream during his attempted possession.
The Autobots all split up in an effort to cover the security weaknesses brought about by the security system's deactivation.
Okay, so Scourge is also here for reasons.
Yeah, like, they both snuck in to no ask.
So they get to the place with the eye, and they attempt to steal it, but then they drop it after getting hit by a bumblebee hit and run.
So they take the other eye.
Oh, an eye for the eye leaves the whole world blind, as Metroplex is finding out.
And Metroplex reports, hey, there's a Decepticon intruder in my brain.
That's really not where you want someone.
It is not.
And so, Scourge and Starscream blast their way out of Metroplex.
Metroplex is pissed and transforms to pursue them, but of course he can't see anything and starts firing all over the place, of which all I can think of is Archer, where one of the characters is like, suppressing fire! And fires wildly at various points in the plot.
I mean, the fact that they've got eyes doesn't make much sense when they could literally just have sensors spread out over places.
The quintessence didn't think this through. What do you want from me?
Well, the robots obviously didn't try to improve the designs, which you'd think they would, considering they can rebuild or repurpose space shuttles for this, for people. Powerglide is hit with one of these stray laser blasts.
But don't worry, Warpath gives him a tender robot hug after helping him back onto his feet.
A charge left by Starscream and Scourge goes off, blowing out Metroplex's visor and taking him out, and presumably that is also in and around his brain, so the fact that he apparently wasn't lobotomized by this is sort of amazing.
But don't worry, when he falls down, he didn't hurt anybody, he just fell down to city mode.
That is so tiny! My god! That's so tiny. It's obviously his preferred form.
Obviously.
But yeah, his dudes are just obviously having robot pina coladas somewhere because they're missing. And this seems like a bit where they'd show up.
You would think.
The Autobots are able to repair Metroplex, and Cup calls Rodimus in to let him know what's going on. Okay, so they can repair him now. They can make new eyes now.
What now? I'm sure.
Alright, since Starscream and Scourge only made off with one of the eyes, they need to get another one, so they gotta set. So they gotta take it from Trypticon.
Starscream buries Metroplex's eye, and they head on in to get close to Trypticon.
Okay, burying it somewhere does seem like
I think
a
they were just
weird-ass
trying to
choice.
hide it because they didn't want to carry it with them.
Yeah. Oh, and now we get to meet two fun new people, because they don't get to make it too far before they run into Run Amok and Runabout.
Which might just be the best names for a Decepticon duo ever, honestly. I love it.
Uh-huh. Run Amok has popped up in a previous episode, but Runabout hasn't, we think.
One's black, one's white. Otherwise, they look exactly the same and both turn into sports cars, and there's not really much to note.
Uh-huh.
But I will say, after reading the TF Wiki, these two are so wasted here. Like, they sound like absolutely terrible delights, and I deeply want them in something better, causing sheer chaos and TPing the enemy base.
Yes, because they would do that. That would be funny. Scourge attempts to sweet-talk his way past the two, but Starscream jumps into Runabout, shoots Run Amok, and then runs headfirst into a wall to knock out Runabout.
Unfortunately for our hapless ghost and his hostage/unwilling sidekick, Run Amok was still conscious and sets off an alarm.
They didn't double tap him.
You would think Starscream would know better at this point, but apparently no.
Yeah. And then they run into Astrotrain, who Starscream possesses, so they can abscond back to Unicron faster and with better cargo space.
Scourge retrieves the eye while under fire from Thrust and Dirge, and he and Starscream then escape.
Galvatron is not pleased that Scourge and Starscream have gotten away and berates the Coneheads and the Battle Chargers, which is the, pair name for Run Amok and Runabout. And God, everyone just looks so sad here. The Decepticons are having a bad day.
I mean, I too would be terrified if Galvatron was speaking this calmly to me. It's honestly more terrifying than him screaming.
Yeah, I mean, he's omnicidal. If he's actually being sort of logical, then that is sort of terrifying.
Yeah.
So their fear is warranted as Galvatron then presumably shoots them before the scene swaps back to Starscream and Scourge arriving at Unicron.
Starscream bails out of Astrotrain on Cybertron so the Autobots will blast Astrotrain for him.
Handy multitasking there. Astrotrain is super confused about how he ended up on Cybertron and is predictably shot down by the Autobots.
Unicron's next task is for them to bring him Trypticon.
And Scourge responds to this with, "Hey, we were just there pretty much," while Starscream complains about him talking too much.
The Autobots try to question a very dazed Astrotrain about his actions, but Blur interrupts with the observation that Unicron has his eyes again.
Okay, scale-wise, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I have to assume it's like a component, because they clearly didn't replace like the whole eye.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a ton of sense. But so I like have to assume it's a sensor or some kind of device, and like,
or maybe they stole the size shifting thing that Perceptor had in that one episode.
If they did, we never see it. But yeah, that's also feasible. Is that like they somehow mass shifted the damn thing to be the proper scale for Unicron?
Yeah. Skylynx takes a group of Autobots to Unicron's head to investigate.
Said group includes Ultra Magnus, Springer, Hotspot, and Groove.
Unicron expels the group with some funky electricity, but they are saved by Skylynx.
Galvatron encourages the 4 bots from earlier to go retrieve Starscream and Scourge with his cannon. Pretty sure that's not how you boost team morale, but here we are.
But Galvatron is knocked on his ass when Trypticon begins transforming around him.
Starscream's just borrowing him, don't worry about it.
Okay, if he can possess Trypticon, he can do whatever he wants. Why didn't he just go and possess Metroplex?
I don't know. Maybe it was that like traveling as Metroplex would have been a lot more noticeable, which is fair, right?
He'd also be taking Autobots along for the ride,
right? Whereas here, he has been asked to specifically bring Trypticon, so that might be why he was more willing to do it.
Yeah.
Although that is an interesting image of him like possessing Metroplex and making Metroplex like pluck out his own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds disturbing, but it's way less disturbing when it's robots. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Though why couldn't he just... Well, he presumably wouldn't be able to get Unicron's body-making thing to work if he possessed Unicron's head.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Starscream, as Trypticon, flies off, but the Decepticons follow him.
Apparently, Unicron wants Trypticon's transformation cog, so Starscream still has to do things, even upon arriving in Trypticon's body.
The Autobots watch the ensuing battle between Trypticon and the other Decepticons.
The Decepticons flee, and Unicron tells Starscream that the last labor is attaching Unicron's head to Cybertron as his new body. What was the entire point of bringing Trypticon there, then?
I think just the transformation cog, but like why? But I don't know how big his T-cog is. I don't know if it's like, we could have just brought you the damn cog. It's clearly not that big. Like, the spoiler, Trypticon and Metroplex's T-cogs get stolen later in the season, so like it's not that big. So it is really fucking funny that he was just like, yeah, bring me that whole body, and he just needed this one fucking piece.
Yep. Scourge nopes out at this point and returns to Galvatron to tell him Unicron's plan.
Galvatron's like, nope, can't fight, no energy, go away.
And then Scourge goes to the Autobots.
Also, Runamuck, Runabout, Thrust, and Dirge were all in Trypticon when Starscream had him transform, so they're currently ready to fuck Starscream's plan up right now.
Good for them.
Yeah, no kidding.
They managed to disable Trypticon so Starscream can't control him anymore.
Starscream's like, well, I can't do jack shit without a body, so you better give me a body, Unicron.
Unicron complies with this and blasts him with his laser eyes, which brings him back to life for some reason, somehow.
Starscream, body fully restored, does not give a single flying fuck, drops the cables, and tells Unicron to complete the connection himself.
Interrupting Starscream's moment of triumph, the Autobots had planted some energon explosives, which go off just as Starscream denies Unicron, sending him and Unicron both flying into space.
Starscream is blasting off again!
Okay, so apparently Unicron's head ended up on the planet at some point here.
I think like they had pulled it down closer or something. I can't remember exactly what the deal was, but like he was definitely very close to being hooked up to Cybertron.
I'm just wondering how he was anticipating the transformation cog being useful, with just hooking the head up with the transformation cog and the planet somehow be like, congratulations, you have a new robot body now.
Totally compatible, sure.
So,
to be fair, he is able to like change the form of things. Like we see
true.
that. So I imagine that he would have been able to actually configure something out.
It's just also how long would that have taken?
Also
would
true.
it have taken would it have been as fast as with Megatron and company, or would this be something that would be
Much
an
longer.
ongoing long-term thing?
Yeah. But so Starscream flies right past Galvatron, who gives the order to shoot.
Apparently they just needed 5 minutes to recover.
I love it because Cyclonus realizes that, hey, Starscream's no longer a ghost.
Back with the Autobots, Rodimus lets Astrotrain and Scourge go since Scourge gave them information earlier.
He then teases Ultra Magnus, Springer, Bumblebee, and Ultra Magnus about needing someone to handle a salvage operation to retrieve Metroplex's eyes from Unicron.
Well, one of his eyes, the other one's Trypticon's, isn't it?
They don't know that.
Yeah. We assume that one of the Ultra Magnuses here is supposed to be a hotspot.
Yeah, because otherwise you just have 2 Ultra Magnuses in the shot. What the hell?
Ultra Magnus and his twin brother, Sub-Ultra Magnus?
But Rodimus says the eyes are probably too damaged anyway, so they'll just build new ones.
Unicron's eye glints ominously as the Autobots laugh themselves silly.
So join us next time for episode 83, The Dweller of the Depths, because that's the end of this episode.
Where yet again, one of the contestants' many creations gets supremely out of hand.
Oh, and also robot zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Specs has some fics for us today.
Yep. The first one is Cold Fusion by Xana Dugan, I think. It's a non-specific continuity, basically one that's pulling from a lot of the varied ones, so it's... You can probably recognize everyone here in all of the settings and stuff. It's rated T, it's Gen, there's no pairings, and it's an ensemble piece, or ensemble multi-chapter piece. So, in summary, Cybertron, a dying planet, frostbitten husk of what it used to be, when Beachcomber, a burnt-out geologist, discovers that the moon might succumb to the same fate, he takes a trip off-world to see if he can stop the rot at its source. The end of the world has a way of spurring mechs onto action, though, and he's not the only one with a mind to mend what's left. So I picked it because, hey, it's doing stuff involving moons, and technically Unicron's head is now Cybertron's moon, and also he definitely kind of was dealing apocalypse stuff when he was trying to eat the planet, so... And also because the whole Starscream wanting to get his body back counts as fixing stuff, so it's like slant rhyming or something for why I wanted it. I haven't read all of it, but it seems interesting, so it sounds like a fun concept. So the second one is Stormhanger by Koi Lungfish. It's a G1 cartoon, rated T, Gen, no pairings. It's an ensemble piece, mostly with the Decepticons, and in summary, Starscream is replaced as Air Commander, and I picked it because this is the last episode with Starscream in it.
In G1, anyway.
Yes, in G1. And it's a completed multi-chapter. The character that replaces Starscream as Air Commander is an original character, but he gets... I'll let you figure it out if you read it. And that just about wraps it up for us today. Remember to check us out on Tumblr or Pillowfort as Afterspark-podcast for any additional information, show notes, or links we may have mentioned. You can also find us on the site formerly known as Twitter at AftersparkPod, all one word, and various other locations by searching for Afterspark podcasts such as AO3, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, just to name a few. And feel free to send us questions on Tumblr, YouTube, or AO3. Till next time, I'm Specs.
And I'm Owls.
Doodles. So they break into a zoo and shave a llama, or attempt to.
That there was a train of thought that led there.